Hey guys, today you're going to be learning about plant hormones and plant movement. You might be thinking to yourself, well, what are plant hormones? Well, if you remember back to when we learned about plant hormones in cell communication, they are, of course, used for, that's right, long distance communication. So in plants, they are going to be a chemical messenger that's going to be used to transport information from one end of the plant, like the top of it, down to its roots, or from its leaves to the flowers, or from some part to another. There are going to be 4 hormones that you're going to be learning about today, and the first is called an auxin. Auxins are going to be a hormone that is used to elongate the shaded side of a plant. This is what's going to cause a plant to bend. If you've ever had a plant on a windowsill and it's been tilted towards the windowsill, that was due to the presence of auxins. So if you take the picture here on the left as an example, in the left corner of the screen where my cursor is, if the sun was here, you will see that this left side of the plant is bright, right? It's not dark, it's the bright color. The right side of the plant, however, is shaded. That means that when this hormone is present, the right side of the plant will actually undergo cellular division at a faster rate than the left side of the plant. And because of this, you are going to have more cells produced on the right side of the plant, the shaded side, than the sunny side of the plant. And because there's an uneven distribution or number of cells on each side of the plant starts to bend. And it's bending towards the shorter or fewer cell-sided part of the plant, which is going to be the side closest to the sun. This hormone also is used to help fruit development. So after fertilization, when the fruit is forming, the auxin is going to help with that the formation or development of the fruit. The second hormone is called a gibberellin, and gibberellins are going to elongate cells to make a plant taller. So if you've ever seen a landscaper go ahead and prune plants like crepe myrtles, where they've cut off the leaves of the plant, and you might think to yourself, well, why is it necessary that they do that? What they're trying to do is cause the plant to grow taller. They want it to be a fuller plant. That's how you can get some crepe myrtles that are actual bushes and some that are actually the trees that you see lining the medians in the road. The gibberellin hormone is also used to help a seed germinate. And to germinate is when a seed is first activated and it's turning from a seed into a plant. So it's going to increase the rate or speed up the rate of germination when gibberellin is present. It's also going to help flowers and fruit form. So when a plant is getting ready to reproduce, gibberellins are going to help with the formation of the flower, and after the flowers have been pollinated, gibberellins are going to help with the development of the fruit. The third hormone is actually a gas, and this gas is called ethylene gas. The main purpose of ethylene gas is to help with the ripening of fruit. Now, farmers are actually going to pick their fruit before it's ripe because it's going to take a little bit of time for you to get that produce. Most of our produce actually comes from Middle America and South America, so it would not be very smart for farmers to pick that fruit when it's ripe, especially if it's going to take a couple weeks or so to get to our grocery stores. So they pick it when it's unripened. Now, in the process of transportation, the trucks that the produce is sent on are actually going to be pumping ethylene gas into that back compartment. And the presence of ethylene gas will cause the tomato, for example, to go from green to some shade of the red color. And when you go to the grocery store, if you see that there are some tomatoes that are more ripe than others, then they probably had more direct contact with the ethylene gas. Now, sometimes like myself and maybe your parents like to pick some produce at the grocery store that are slightly underripened, like bananas or a pineapple or avocado, because I probably am not intending to eat that fruit right away. So I pick it when it's unripened. Now, let's say that I go to bed tonight and I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to eat a banana tomorrow morning, but I happen to have a green banana. What I'm going to do is stick that banana, or it could be an avocado or pineapple, into like a lunch paper bag and close up the end. That produce, whatever I stuck in there, is going to produce its own ethylene gas, and by putting it into a container like the paper bag, I am increasing the concentration of ethylene gas and causing that fruit to ripen. Now, it might not be fully ripened by the next day, but maybe 2 days later it'll be a fully ripened perfect banana or pineapple or avocado, versus it taking 3 or 4 days to ripen on its own. Ethylene gas is also going to cause flowers to wilt after fertilization. The whole purpose of a flower is to attract a pollinator, and that's why the petals are so beautiful in flowers. After it's attracted a pollinator and the flower itself has been fertilized, it no longer needs the petals, and it's going to cause those flowers to wilt so that it can spend the energy on developing the fruit or seed from that flower. Ethylene gas, if you're looking at a completely different part of a plant, let's say the leaves, is actually the presence of it is going to cause the leaves to stop photosynthesizing and lose the green pigmentation, cause them to turn those pretty reds and oranges and yellows due to the sugars that are in the leaves, and then actually allow the leaves to fall. The last hormone is called abscisic acid. And abscisic acid is commonly found in seeds because it's going to help them remain dormant. So seeds are still living, even though they might look like they're not moving or not responding. They're just dormant. They have a reduced state of metabolism, and that's due to the presence of abscisic acid. So when you go to the grocery store and you see those bags of beans down like the soup aisle, those beans are in a dormant state. They could be put in like a moist environment and they could start to grow a bean plant, or they could go ahead and be put in boiling water and you can make them into soup. But they're in a dormant state due to the presence of abscisic acid. They also help close the stomata. So the picture here on the left, the unfocused image in the back, is actually a picture of 2 guard cells, the one here on the top and the one here on the bottom, that kind of look like a donut or lips. Those are guard cells, and the center part right here is going to be the stomata. That is an opening in the leaf where oxygen and carbon dioxide are going to diffuse across that barrier, and that's where a plant's going to get its carbon dioxide and release the oxygen into the environment. Now, it doesn't just allow the diffusion of those gases. That opening will actually allow water to escape the leaf. And if a plant is in an environment that has a water shortage or a drought, like we did this past summer, those plants are going to want to keep those guard cells closed, because by keeping those guard cells closed, you are prohibiting transpiration from happening, and you're using that water for photosynthesis instead of losing it to the environment. So those are the 4 hormones that plants use to regulate daily activities. Now let's move to plant movement. So plants, you might have thought, don't really have any movement because they're typically stationary, and if you plant it in the ground, you're going to find that plant in the same location when you come back. However, they do have to react and respond to their environment, and they do that through movement. We call this a tropism, or plant's response to an external stimulus. There are 2 tropisms that a plant can exhibit. It can exhibit a negative tropism. In a negative tropism, the plant is going to move away from the stimulus. Just think of somebody yelling at you or touching something that's hot. You're going to either run away from the person yelling at you, or you're going to move your hand away from the thing that's hot. It's not a positive thing. You want to get away from it. So a plant that exhibits a negative tropism is going to move away from whatever is happening in the environment. A positive tropism, if something's positive, you want more of it, so you're going to move towards it. So look at this picture. Is the plant moving towards or away from the light? It's moving towards the light. You can see it bending in the direction of the lamp. That means that this plant is exhibiting a positive tropism. Now, what is that called? Well, that's called phototropism. Photo meaning light and tropism meaning response to the stimulus. And what's the stimulus in this scenario? Light. So it's plant's growth in response to light. Here in the picture, you see a plant here on the left that has the sun right about where my cursor is, so it's growing straight up. Here in the second pot, there is a plant that is devoid of light, hence why it's lost the green pigmentation. It's not photosynthesizing. Maybe it was kept in the closet. The picture here on the right is going to be a plant that has the sun right about where my cursor is circling around, and you can see that it's not growing vertically, it's actually growing a little bit to the right, or in this picture right here. This video is supposed to pop up. Let's see if it does. Yes, here in this video you are watching a time lapse over a course of a couple hours. The plant is moving from the right side of the screen. They're all rotating towards the left side of the screen because that's where the sun is. There's going to be a window right here. So that is phototropism. Now, can you see that if you just stare at a plant? No. But if you were to take a time lapse of a plant, just like in that video, you would see the plant moving. The second tropism is called gravitropism. And just like its name implies, it's going to be the growth in response to gravity. Now, there's actually two tropisms happening here because there are two parts of the plant that are growing, the stem and the roots. Now, if you look at the roots are growing into the ground. Now, I don't know why, but most people want to say that that is a negative tropism, when in fact it's actually a positive tropism. The reason that the roots are going to be exhibiting a positive tropism to gravitropism is the fact that gravity is pushing down or pulling down towards the earth. And where do the roots grow but into the ground? So they are moving in the same direction that gravity is pushing. However, the stem is growing vertically. It's growing up or away from the ground. And since gravity is pushing or pulling down and the roots are growing in the opposite direction that the gravity is pushing, the stem is actually exhibiting a negative tropism for gravitropism. The third tropism is called thigmotropism. And with thigmotropism, what you see is a plant trying to feel for its environment. So the type of plants that exhibit thigmotropism are going to be plants that cannot maintain their structure by themselves. They need to grow on another structure. So that's going to be vine-based plants like kudzu or ivy. They are going to send out feelers like this picture here on the bottom. They're kind of long parts. They kind of look like a spring because they're going to stretch out and they're going to be feeling for, like in these pictures, these stakes. When the feelers actually find some structure like the stake to grow on, they are going to kind of pull the plant behind itself, and then the plant's going to start wrapping itself around that structure. And it's going to continue to grow using that structure as a foundation. The last movement is called nastic movement. And nastic movement is kind of hard to grasp, but it's defined as the response that is not dependent upon the direction of the stimulus. So basically, it's neither positive or negative tropism or response by the plant. Think of the movie Avatar is the best example I have of this. When Jake is in the forest and he's exploring, and he goes and touches all these things, and he finds this one plant that kind of looks like multiple umbrellas upside down from each other, and he touches the umbrella like plant, and the leaves kind of close in on themselves, and behind that plant he finds that rhinoceros looking thing. Well, that plant did not move towards Jake or away from Jake. It just responded to his movement by closing. And that's what happens here with the mimosa plant. This video, you're going to see that a person's going to be touching the leaves, and the leaves are going to close in on themselves. Now, this is beneficial for plants that have insects and things on them, so that the predators actually fall off of them. Or a Venus flytrap also does the same thing. So that is thigmotropism. Now just imagine your whole afternoon touching those plants. Super fun. So here is the end of our notes about plant hormones and movement. If you have any questions, stop by and see me. Thanks.